Hey, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our Michigan Home Energy Rebate listening session. This is our initial listening session for this program. Good morning. My name is Jim Ostrowski, and I am with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm going to be moderating today's session and just helping in the background a little bit with the team here. Just want to give you all a few housekeeping details before we get started. I'm going to turn over to Jake, and he's going to do a quick presentation, and then we'll listen to you. Lines are muted at this point. If you have a question or comment you'd like to make, you can utilize the Q&A box that you have in front of you. We are recording this session like we do all of them. We'll put it up on YouTube in the next couple of days. You would also keep an eye on the chat, because in the chat, you're going to find some details that Christine Grossman is going to put in there. She's also here with me today. I'm going to turn over to Jake here. So Jake, you can go ahead and switch over to your screen. And while Jake's bringing that up, I just want to remind everybody that, the point of today's session is to give you a quick presentation of what's going on, and also to listen to you. We can hear from you and your comments. We did do a session last week, a kickoff session that we dived into the program in a little more detail, and we took a lot of questions. We did a lot of Q&A there. So the point of this session isn't really to, take a lot of Q&A. We have time, we will do a couple questions, but we're really here to listen to you. And in the chat, Christine, I think, just dropped in the link to the recording. So we have that available there too. Okay, Jake, I can see your screen, so you can go ahead and take it away.
All right, great. Thanks, Jim. Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Wilkinson. I am the Energy Unit Supervisor within the Sustainability Section of the Materials Management Division in EGLE, which is the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Thank you for joining us for this listening session for the Michigan Home Energy Rebate Program. So the U.S. Department of Energy's Home Energy Rebate Programs are broken out into two programs, being Section 50121, which is the Home Efficiency Rebates, and 50122, which is the Home Electrification and Appliance Rebates. Each of these programs will require separate applications from EGLE to DOE. For Section 50121, Home Efficiency Rebates, Michigan is eligible for just over 105.9 million, and this program is targeting whole house energy savings and uses a modeled or measured savings pathway. For Section 50122, Home Electrification and Appliance Rebates, Michigan is eligible for just over 105.2 million, and this program is targeting specific electrification and appliance upgrades. In total, Michigan has over $211 million collectively for home energy rebates. This is our current timeline, what we've done so far and what's coming next. So DOE's, the first box there being DOE's home energy rebates. The legislation was passed as part of the Inflation Reduction Act in August of 2022. And DOE released the application instructions for access to the early planning funds in March of 2023. The full program application instructions came out in August of 2023. The early admin planning application, Michigan submitted our early planning funding application in July of 2023, and we received our award at the end of November of 2023 from DOE. Next stage, moving on to planning consultants to utilize that planning application funding. And so we issued 2 RFPs for the planning to solicit the planning consultants. That opened in December of 2023 and closed in February of 2024. We are currently going through contract negotiations with the recommended consultants. In the stakeholder engagement there, we're in the process of that now. We have virtual and in-person engagement sessions scheduled in March and April of 2024. I do have the dates and locations of those on a later slide that we will get to. After that, we will move to the DOE program application, so after the engagement sessions, we'll draft and submit both applications, ideally in May of 2024. That's kind of our target. And this will include required items such as a community benefits plan, outreach and education plan, customer protection plan, and data access plan. Each of these is required separately for each application. So all of these need to be completed for 50121 and 50122. We're estimating about a 60-day turnaround from DOE for our award. So that would ideally be in July of 2024. Once we receive our award, we'll move on to the implementation RFPs. So we'll begin drafting those while we wait for DOE approval, so that once we have the awards, we can make final edits as needed based on DOE feedback and post those RFPs in August 2024. At that point, we'll have to do the actual rollout selection of regional implementers, get those on board, and estimating that we'll actually be able to roll out the home energy rebate programs to customers in October of 2024. And then the last step being data and reporting analysis. That'll be ongoing through the life of the program. You'll notice that some of the items in this timeline are marked with asterisks. If we can save any time without compromising program integrity, we will do that. So, while right now our tentative rollout for residents is listed as October, we're going to do what we can to try and open it up sooner. Again, making sure that we don't compromise program integrity or shortcut or skip anything that is really important. So these are all things that are kind of factoring into our program design. Not only how do the home energy rebates work with existing programs such as utility rebates, weatherization, and community programs, but also how to avoid deferrals due to health and safety issues, how to deal with increased demand for workers in the energy sector, and the ripple effect that this will all cause. So if an upgrade is going to trigger a permit and subsequent inspection, are those communities and industries prepared? If we're looking at the big picture for all the material and equipment being removed from a home, where is that material going? Are we prepared to recycle that material? Our number one priority in all this is to ensure we develop a robust program that works for the residents. If we're replacing, thousands of pieces of equipment across the state in some of our most vulnerable populations, what happens when that equipment all starts to break at the same time? So trying to ensure we are using warranties and training repair services as well as installation to ensure long-term program success. And finally, how can we use this opportunity to provide residents with additional information, tools, resources on things like water leaks, radon testing, food security, food waste reduction, home composting, recycling, and some of our other programs that we have funding sources for as well. Following those program design consideration, what are other key program considerations to include? We don't want to recreate the wheel. There are existing programs out there, not duplicating efforts, streamlining it and trying to make it easy for residents to navigate, and integrating it with existing programs, taking advantage of training and communication and partnerships, and then focusing on the highest need first are kind of some additional considerations we're trying to include. All right, so here's the current plan. It's bare bones at this point because we're still early in the planning stage. But at its core, this is kind of how we're envisioning deployment of the rebates in Michigan. So we need to identify and get signed up target residents to participate, including pre-surveys. Need to have assessments done at the home, and data can be pulled from the utility, or at least that's the goal. Identify eligible funding based on the assessment and the resident eligibility, determine what funding and project scope makes sense for that home. Reviewing the project scope with the resident and obtain an agreement for work to commence. and then actual completion of the energy upgrades and making sure that material is properly handled as it's replaced. And then finally, the project verification and data. So we need to make sure that it's verified complete, warranty paperwork is filed, there's an agreement in place to be able to pull data for that set time frame for the verification, and then any supplemental information is provided to the residents, such as maintenance concerns, who to call with questions, and any other resources that they might need. Now, what is glossed over in this simplified plan is all the behind-the-scenes things that will need to happen for this implementation plan to work. In order to roll out this program, we're going to need partnerships, communication, thinking outside the box if we're truly going to make a difference with this opportunity. So how do we make that happen? First, we need to identify our phase one target audience. Again, while 211 million sounds like a lot of money, it's still not enough. So let's start where it's needed most. Because it is federal Department of Energy funding, we have to have at least 40% of the funding targeted at disadvantaged communities. And to make the most impact, we do need to focus on our low-income residents and on homes that desperately need these energy upgrades. Next, we'll work with regional implementers. These might be local governments, nonprofits, or even utilities. These regional implementers will act as a concierge service and connect residents to certified home energy rebate contractors. And then finally, we will work with contractors who have gone through a process to be a certified home energy rebate contractor. That process is yet to be determined. Part of why we're doing a lot of these listening sessions and planning work. These contractors will work with the residents to assess the home and then work with regional implementers to identify eligible funding sources, coming back to the resident with a list of upgrade options and then completing the work and closing out the project. So I think that's about all I have. Oh, here I do have the connections and next steps being when we have our next listening sessions planned. So tried to create some around the state, and then we do have a closing session that will be virtual as well at the end of April. So encourage anyone that's interested to participate in any of these events. And at this point, I think we'd like to open it up for comments.
All right, thanks, Jake. Appreciate that. I'm gonna bring up my screen here, so just bear with me. Okay. All right, and I actually had to get over to my slide, so just a second. All right, everybody. So at this point, what we're going to do is take comments from you all. Like I said, the point of today's session is to hear from you what kind of comments you have on the program, and what you'd like us to hear, or what you'd like to tell us about it. It's not really for Q&A, so we're not going to be doing we're not going to be doing questions and answers that we did in the previous session. So if you missed that, you should probably go back and check out the recording and listen to a more in-depth discussion on that, as well as a lot of questions that came up. Before we get into it, I want to have our other people that are online with us, two other staff. So can you guys turn your cameras on, Erica and Lisa? Just introduce yourselves quickly. Oh, you're muted.
Turn on my mic. Hi, good morning. My name is Erica Richard. I'm the Workforce Development Programs Coordinator here at EGLE.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Thomas. I am one of the engineers helping with some of the renewables and manufacturing projects on the team.
All right. Thanks, Erica and Lisa. Okay, so at this point, yeah, we want to hear from you, hear your comments. If you'd like, you can type your comment into the Q&A box, and we'll keep that for our record, and we'll be sharing it with the team. So you can put looks like a couple people already have, put your comments in there. We'd appreciate it if you do put a comment in. Don't put it in as anonymous. It'd help us out if you do put in with your actual contact information. Also, you can raise your hand. And we're going to open it up, people to raise their hand. When you raise your hand, what we'll do is we'll call your name in the order in which you raised it, and we will unmute you, and you can make your comment. If you would keep it to about 3 minutes. We've got a lot of people on the line, but we really have no idea how many people want to comment. If people are taking a little too long, I might put my clock up there to help us along. But for right now, we'll just kind of keep it informal. Let's keep it about 3 minutes. You can also submit comments via email to the email address that's up on your screen there, eagle-mmd-her@michigan.gov. So that's the other way to make a comment. All right, so if you have a comment, you can raise your hand, and looks like I got a couple hands raised. The first one is Martin. And when you make a comment, if you would, before you start off, just say your name, state your name, and if you can let us know of any association or group that you're affiliated with, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Martin, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Sure, thanks. This is Marty Kushler, recently retired from ACEEE, but very interested in all of this stuff. Couple quick comments. One is if you can possibly accelerate the timeline so that the HER rollout is before October, that would, I think, be very helpful to give people a little more lead time before heating season kicks in. Just an aside comment there. And the other is a question. I'm wondering if you will be baking in any kind of a process evaluation to be done simultaneous with implementation, because I think it's very helpful when beginning new programs to have a nice process evaluation to look for ways to improve the implementation.
All right, thanks, Marty, for your comment today. We got a couple more up. Mark is next, and then Thea. So, Mark, I'm going to unmute your line so you can go ahead and make your comment.
Hey there, Mark Lee, Better World Builders, Kalamazoo, Michigan. I have two questions. One is how will the regional implementation implementers be selected, and what contract qualifications will be necessary? I guess I have a three-part question. And then the final question is...
So Mark, just to let you know, we're not really doing questions and answers. If you have a question, you might want to send it to us via email. But if you want to phrase it more of a comment, that may be something that we can address.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a comment. Will there be opportunities for, it's still a question, but if your business is located in a disadvantaged community, could they receive any additional incentives or just being part of the community, more based inside those disadvantaged communities? Will they be able to have just some better access or better connections for employing people in those disadvantaged communities?
Thanks, Mark. And I'll let you guys know that we'll get through as many comments as we can today. If we do have a little time left over, if there's something that Jake or the team here wants to address in terms of something they've heard, we'll let that happen. So thanks, Mark. Next up is Thea, and then Samantha is after Thea. So Thea, you can go ahead and make your comment.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, my name's Thea EGLE. I am a senior energy analyst with the city of Ann Arbor. I have comments kind of on two topics. I'll try and keep it brief. The first one is on the approach for identifying households or buildings that are eligible for rebates. I've seen the priority of EGLE is for these rebates to really be focused on equity with some really strong justice for EGLEs, which we strongly agree with. I would advocate for there being an approach to identifying eligible buildings on individual characteristics versus purely on zip codes or jurisdictional boundaries and characteristics within those. My second comment is on stacking and braiding with other available rebates and incentives. So the city of Ann Arbor is also designing our own rebate program. And I have some efficiencies or areas where I think these rebates link together that could help increase impact across the board. The first is making resources available to households and municipalities, even if they're not receiving a state home energy rebate, whether that be helping with income verification to help target at-need households, or the state or regional implementers sharing a list of households that they know are within the state's equity priority goals but aren't eligible for rebates or aren't able to receive a state home energy rebate. And the second is on the state's plan to do energy assessments, and to either share the outcomes with municipalities, or to link the availability of those assessments also to other rebates that may be available. Those are all my comments. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Thea. If there is something you want to send us, the email address is up there on the screen, so of course you can email to us.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next up, Samantha, and after Samantha is going to be Jacob. So Samantha, you should be able to unmute your line.
All right, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Hi, everyone. I'm Samantha Caputo. I am on the regulatory affairs team at OPower, which is a part of Oracle's energy and water business. And I first off just want to start by applauding EGLE for identifying a target audience that you're looking to really bring these rebates and these programs to, and also applaud in wanting to leverage and work with the utilities and their data in this. I absolutely, first comment, agree with Thea's comment in the beginning there about going beyond zip code or census tract targeting for these programs, and really working with digital solutions to help do that. So, Oracle, we work with utility data across Michigan, and one thing that we're able to do in leveraging that utility data, as well as other data such as third-party data and customer-provided data, is we can actually get down to the household level and provide an energy burden score for the household. So in addition to looking at census tract level data and meeting the Justice 40 targets, looking at the household level can make sure that you're having equitable access across all communities in Michigan, and making sure that no one is getting left out if they're not within some of those target communities that you're focused on. In addition to that, another comment is really just, in addition to community-based local outreach for these programs, we encourage you to consider how digital solutions can help scale and increase the reach of outreach and education across the state, both for the lower and upper peninsulas. Using digital outreach and leveraging the data that you have available to you and working with the utilities, you can implement outbound approaches, so really targeting your audience for these rebate programs, and then reaching out to them directly to engage them and educate them about the programs that are available to them within the home energy rebate programs, as well as any other utility, state, or federally funded programs that you want to highlight. And then finally, through that outreach and education effort and digital solutions, providing a one-stop shop to your residents, where these rebate programs, as well as utility programs and any other state or federally funded programs in Michigan, can be brought together in one place. I think this really helps with your goal of wanting to streamline and make this as easy as possible for residents, and by bringing that information in one place and personalizing recommendations based on the data that you have available to you, really bringing front and center targeted recommendations of how customers can take advantage of these programs, we think would be a great addition to the outreach and education component of your program. So we're happy to follow up with additional comments, kind of getting into more details on those different components there, but really appreciate the opportunity to speak live today.
Great, thanks, Samantha. Appreciate your comments today. And like I said, if you have more to add, you can just email them.
Great, thank you.
All right. Up next is Jacob, and then after Jacob be Andrew. So Jacob, you can unmute your line.
Hello. I'm Jacob Surfling with the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. We have a number of organizational and individual members across the state of Michigan, and just want to uplift some of the concerns or opportunities that our membership had identified. First off, with regards to the around 10% of the rebates that we know the state of Michigan will need to set aside for low-income multifamily housing. A number of our members expressed concerns that the 2 years of tenant protections mandated by DOE would be insufficient to protect tenants from landlords either evicting them or raising rents on the back of improvements made through the rebates. So certainly we would love the state to consider extending that to something more like 5 years, and also present more details around what enforcement of those protections will look like. Regarding the homes rebate program specifically, we echo DOE's encouragement to primarily use the homes rebate money to support energy neutral measures such as insulation upgrades, and also for the state to make clear that they will not be utilizing homes rebates to replace gas efficient appliances with new older gas appliances with new gas furnaces or other gas appliances, even if they're more efficient than what they're replacing. Echoing some of the other comments that we've already heard, we also want to make clear that we don't think the state can assume that applicants applying for one part of the HERE homes rebates are going to be aware of other rebates that they might qualify for as part of those programs, or other state or utility rebates that might be able to braid with those and create a more holistic improvement to their household, and really encourage you to consider that one-stop shop model with how this program is implemented. We also would like to see the state not just look at where community partners for outreach are geographically located, but making sure that the state is partnering with culturally appropriate community partners that have a track record of working in those communities and have that level of trust and buy-in already in the community, and are not seen as a new entity dropping in over the top. Finally, the last piece that we'd like to uplift in our comments today is to see more buy-in from communities and investment in the continued success of the program, making sure that data on how the program is performing is made as easily available to the public as possible. And also maybe making an effort to track additional data beyond what DOE is requiring, such as social health determinants in the communities where rebates are being targeted, or capturing some of those racial demographics that aren't necessarily included in that CEJST screening tool already. And I am happy to pass along written versions of all of that to EGLE as well, since I know I had to go through that quite quickly.
Okay, thanks, Jacob. Okay, up next is Andrew. Then after Andrew is Grace, and then I don't have any other hands up after that. So if you'd like to make a comment, get your hand up there. Get yourself in line. Thank you. So Andrew, you can go ahead.
Great, thanks, Jim. This is Andrew Reynolds at the Holland, Michigan Board of Public Works. We have existing rebate programs for EWR and electrification at this point, so we're doing this kind of stuff on a daily basis. One of the things that I thought I heard during the kickoff call last week was talk about assessments or even audits as a prerequisite for, I think it was all of these rebates that we're talking about, and I wanted to at least encourage the discussion to go towards not requiring assessments for every single one of these rebates. for example, in the situation of a customer wanting to replace an electric oven with an induction oven, like I don't feel like they should have to go through the step of a BPI audit to tell them they can do that. Because it seems like the assessment is another cost that would either come out of the rebate potential or be borne by a contractor or by the state. And that seems like an unnecessary cost in every case. Certainly for something like replacing or installing a heat pump when we're not sure the home would actually save money or save carbon to do that is a worthwhile assessment need, but just wanted to encourage there to be some more ability to differentiate when that's actually needed. Related to that, the City of Holland had a program for a number of years that was very similar to what we're talking about here, where a contractor would come in and do an assessment of a home, a BPI assessment, I should say, audit, and then make recommendations to the resident based on the findings of that audit. And it was a popular program. It was obviously led to expensive retrofits. That's what we're targeting. But there was some concern that if the contractor is the one telling you what your home needs, that doesn't have the same value as coming from a third party. And so we've actually abandoned that old program model completely. And for the last year and a half have switched to a nonprofit based partnership approach, where we train nonprofits to go in and do a more simplified assessment of a home, but still a valuable one. We're seeing energy savings year over year. We're seeing people install these kind of measures, electrification measures in their homes. So they're getting the message. We're just not forcing them to do it with a contractor. Some of whom are totally able to convey that message, but some of whom weren't. And it just takes that pressure, that sales pressure off the interaction completely. So I know the state, and we've talked to Julie and others at the state about our program, and we'd be highly interested in talking more about it and how it could kind of fit into this kind of model and be used by their communities, because it's very applicable to other places. But just wanting to emphasize, we'd like to see this program stay away from mandated audits and mandated audits by contractors if we could. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. All right. Next up is Grace. Then after Grace is MJ. So Grace, your line should be unmuted and you can go ahead when you're ready.
Great, thank you. My name is Grace McKenzie. I am the Senior Director of Policy at Michigan Energy Innovation Business Council. We're a nonprofit trade organization that represents about 170 advanced energy businesses doing business in the state of Michigan. Specifically, in this relevant to this work, we represent a number of suppliers, manufacturers, contractors, energy efficiency implementers, and others that will be critical to making sure that the Home Energy Rebate Program is successful in the state of Michigan. And I have a number of comments, but I'm just going to keep it brief to just one of them, and I'll submit the rest various other ways. But just this one, because it is quite timely. The suppliers that we represent in our membership have expressed some concerns regarding ensuring that they understand what they should be ordering now to be ready for an October launch, and what product specifications is EGLE going to set as far as the types of appliances that will be allowed under the electric appliance side of the program. So specifically, because of how the timelines work between manufacturers and suppliers, in order to be ready to and meet the demand needed starting in October for this program, they need to get those orders again under the product specifications that EGLE can set, ideally by May, if not very early June. So I know that's very quick turnaround time here with us being at the end of March, but I just want to express the urgency on that side. My understanding is that EGLE can choose to set anything Energy Star, I believe it's the most recent Energy Star rating or above. So, if EGLE wants to set it at Energy Star, like the federal requirements allow them to, if they want to set it above that, suppliers just need to be aware of what those product specifications will be. So that's all. I'll keep it to that for now.
Okay, thanks, Grace. And yeah, please do submit your other comments to us. Appreciate that. All right. MJ is up next. And I don't have any other hands after that. So if you want to make a comment, please get your hand up. Thank you. MJ, you can go ahead.
Good morning. I'm MJ DeSmith. I'm with the Michigan Air Conditioning Contractors Association. And I just wanted to let EGLE know that one of our concerns that we're hoping that you will address is preparing a timely payback policy for our contractors, where something that's written and set in stone, along with all the policies for their certifications and product eligibility as well. So I just kind of want to reiterate what Grace said, and that's all I have today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, MJ. Okay, just checking to see if anybody else has a comment they'd like to make. I'll give it a second here. And just want to let you know, a couple of you did submit comments into our Q&A box. So Julie, Millicent, Andrew, yeah, we got yours. So yours came in here. Okay, looks like a couple other people with their hands up. Odalis, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Odalis Perales. I'm a policy researcher with Michigan United. I'm a grassroots nonprofit organizing our community members around issue areas like environmental justice, healthcare, and immigrant rights. I wanted to echo the sentiment of excitement that about EGLE's decision to target the rebate programs for disadvantaged communities. This is definitely something that Michigan United stands with, and I just wanted to applaud EGLE for that as well. I also wanted to comment on regarding income verification. So as EGLE looks to target this program, the rebate programs with special emphasis and consideration for equity and access, I wanted to raise a point that we should further ensure that processes for verifying income do not make the program inaccessible to otherwise eligible non-citizen households. For example, by using methods like requiring social security numbers or requiring participation in state or federal programs that excludes those households. So I really wanted to push for some immigrant inclusion within this rebate program design. And I have sent some guidelines to the email provided. So there's definitely more to say regarding this topic specifically. I also wanted to echo Jacob's comments around partnering with community-based organizations to build on that trust and also build that accessibility factor, including language access as well. Michigan United is looking to create a navigator program for specifically the Michigan Rebate Program. And that's definitely something that we are looking forward to in terms of increasing outreach and education efforts to our local communities for this.
Okay, thanks for your comment today. All right, I do see Martin, you have a hand up again. Did you have another comment or somebody else there with you that wanted to make a comment?
I have just a quick comment.
Okay.
Someone recently asked about or requested that EGLE notify contractors and suppliers on what equipment would qualify for rebates and so forth. I just wanted to note that the recent legislation, SB 273, or otherwise known as PA 229, specifically designated the MPSC as the organization that will identify what measures qualify as efficient electrification measures. So be sure to coordinate with the MPSC on that subject.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't see their hands up. There was somebody that was raising and lowering their hand, but it's not raised right now. So if you do have a comment, I'm not seeing a hand raised. So please let us know by raising your hand if you have a comment. Okay. All right, team, I'm not seeing any other hands raised now. So just want to remind people that, you know, this is not your only opportunity to comment on this. You can submit comments online. Also, I think Jake put in there, we have a lot of other online or live opportunities too, as we take it out on the road over the next month. I'm going to open it up to Jake and the team here. Did you guys want to address anything that you heard, or is there anything else you want to, I guess, mention as we kind of close down here?
Yeah, I'll add one thing, just kind of addressing some of the common comments that I heard here. So, I mean, we're at the very early stages of planning. We're trying to get the implementation, or not implementation, the planning contractors on board. And so, you know, that's why we're doing these listening sessions, and really appreciate all the comments that we've received. But I did hear a common comment around trying to leverage trusted community members or organizations for the implementation efforts. And I'll say that that is the goal of EGLE when developing this, is, you know, the planning effort and these comments and everything will help us to develop the program as far as eligibility requirements around residents that might be eligible, but also equipment, what type of technologies we want to target. But when we get to the implementation phase, our goal would be to leverage those community organizations that are already trusted by residents or the people in the area that we're trying to reach through these programs. Because kind of to an earlier point I made about not recreating the wheel, we know that EGLE doesn't have the community connections that a lot of these more regional organizations already have. And so we want to try and leverage those and work with those organizations as much as possible. And so that process will be through a competitive RFP. We'll be, you know, broadcasting that as widely as we can when that RFP is released, and would encourage interested organizations or anyone here that knows of a group that they would recommend, that they would want to see implemented, that we make sure we're pushing them towards that application, so that we can get the right people on board when we're getting to that step.
Yeah, thanks for addressing that, Jake. All right, I'm looking here, and in the chat, Christine did put a lot of links in there in terms of how to get registered for the live listening sessions, and how to register for the closing listening session we have planned. So lots of opportunities coming up here. Also, we dropped in there a copy of our presentation. I think this is the one from last week, the presentation we did that was a little more in depth. We put a copy of that one in there. All right. Well, with that, I am going to close it down. So I don't see any other hands raised for comments. So I want to thank Jake, Erica, and Lisa for joining us today. Just want to remind you that if you have more questions about this program and you weren't on the kickoff session last week, to please go ahead and check out that recording that we have up there from last week, because a lot of questions were raised and there was a lot of answers provided during that session too. So thank you all for joining us today. Great comments. We really appreciate them, and hopefully we'll be getting some more in over the next few weeks. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.